Hello, hello. How is everybody doing? Happy Thursday, everybody. Hello to everybody that is watching in the Clinical Connections Mentoring Facebook group. Hello to everybody that is watching on Instagram. I'm so happy you are here. I hope everybody is doing very well today. It is finally the first full week of December. Christmas is less than 3 weeks away. Cannot believe it. Hanukkah starts tonight, so happy Hanukkah to anybody who celebrates. I want to welcome you to my very last live of 2023 and just say a very big thank you to everyone that is watching today. And like I said before, I'm very, very happy that you are here. Today, I will be sharing with you the very wonderful tool of reflection. We'll be talking about what it is, when to use it, and how to use it. So for anybody new here, I am Dr. Jody Miller. I am a physical therapist and a mentor to students and newer clinicians who've maybe been working for a few years, maybe starting to feel some burnout or frustration in your current job, and they just want some help to figure out how to make it all better. That's what I do. I've worked in just about every setting that there is for PTs. I have worked in outpatient, hospital-based outpatient. I have worked in home health. I've done pediatrics. I've done travel therapy. I have done acute care oncology. I have mostly worked in skilled nursing facilities. I was a rehab director at a skilled nursing facility as well. I'm an adjunct professor. I've been a lab assistant in a couple PT schools, and now I own my own cash-based practice here in Florida. And I'm also the owner of Clinical Connections Mentoring, which is where you are now. So again, thank you. What I'd like you to do is if you are watching live, whether you're watching on Instagram or in the Facebook group, please go ahead, type live in the comments. Tell me who you are, where you're watching from. Same thing if you are watching the replay, same thing, just type replay, and then tell me your name, where you're watching from. And also in the comments while you're there, I want you to just tell me where you are in your therapy journey. Are you a student? Are you on a clinical? Are you a new grad? Maybe you've been a seasoned clinician. Tell me how long. Just want to know a little bit more about you and who's watching, who I'm talking to. So for me, 2023 has actually gone by very, very fast. I had a full year, but it was full of ups and downs, I'm sure, just for you as well. I had moments of fun and joy, and I had moments of frustration and overwhelm. I even had moments where I was questioning what I was doing. Do I want to keep doing what I'm doing? And I'm sure I'm not the only one. There are plenty of you out there watching who probably had similar experiences in your life. In 2023, I did experience a drop in my revenue. I had a drop in my caseload, the number of patients that were coming to me, the number of clients that were coming to me. I felt very stressed about money in 2023. Who doesn't? Who didn't? We all know the economy. It certainly stressed me out. I implemented in 2023 ideas and projects that essentially flopped, did nothing for me. And I didn't reach all of the goals that I had set for myself. But also in 2023, I was able to take a total of 7 full weeks of vacation with a whole bunch of other long weekends on top of that, long weekend getaways on top of those 7 full weeks of vacation. I gave 2 presentations at a state PT conference. I hired 2 people to join my team. I gave myself space to read 30 minutes a day. And because of that, I've read more books this year than I ever have before. Started playing golf with my husband and my kids. And I got really, really clear on what I truly enjoy doing in my career. And I'm not saying these things, I'm not sharing this information to kind of brag and boast, but more just to show you what is possible for you and to show you the power of reflection. Right? It's really, really, really easy to just look back on something, the year, the month, whatever you've done, and only see the negative results or those negative aspects of what you experienced and how it went. For some reason, I don't know why, but it's those negative experiences or those negative memories are always the things that stand out much brighter than the positive memories. But if you use the reflection properly, you'll be able to uncover the positives right alongside those negatives. And negatives aren't bad. I'm not saying that they're bad things, but if you're using reflection properly, you'll be able to actually clearly see those positive things as well. You may even find more positives than you originally thought. For example, I have been focusing on all of my negatives for the past few months, right? All the ones I told you, drop in clients, drop in revenue, not meeting my goals. That's all I've been thinking about the past couple months. And I had this belief in my head that 2023 was a terrible year for me. Because I didn't meet my goals and because my revenue dropped and because my clients dropped, right? But when I sat down and reflected on everything that's happened since January, and I was able to kind of pull back and look at the entire picture, the big picture of what 2023 was, I found that I actually had a much longer list of positives than I originally thought. And those positives are that list that I shared with you, right? That list was way longer than my list of negatives, but I couldn't see them until I actually gave myself space and time to sit down and reflect on everything. Okay. For anyone that has ever heard me speak or has been a client in one of my programs, you know that I find reflection to be very important and helpful for growth, mostly because of the reasons I just shared with you, right? But you cannot move forward without looking back at what you've done and where you've come from. I have an entire module on reflection in my Conquer Your Clinicals course that teaches the value of reflecting weekly with your CI while you're on your clinicals. So if there's any students watching who are on a clinical or previously on a clinical, I have an entire module on reflection and how important it is to help you have a successful clinical. I've given presentations on burnout and talked about how reflection can be very beneficial if you experience things like perfectionism, imposter syndrome, or you tend to compare yourself to other people. And I also talk about reflection in my Planning for Success webinar as a tool to help you plan for next year. Because remember, you can't move forward, you can't make new goals, you can't keep moving forward unless you've looked back at what you've done and learned from that. So it is a big part of my Planning for Success webinar that I help people work through. Okay, so first, let's talk about when you should reflect. Okay, so reflection is typically done at the conclusion of something. The end of the year, the end of a semester, end of a clinical, end of a program you participated in, the end of a quarter, end of a week, end of a month, end of the day, right? You can do it as often as you like, but it's typically done at the end of something, right? So reflection is looking back at how things went during that time or that period, right? During an event or a period of time, right? So you tend to ask yourself what went well, what didn't go well, what happened altogether, were the goals met or not, how'd you feel, what did you learn? Now, these are some very basic questions to think about, but I'm going to give you some better questions for reflection a little bit later. So kind of hang with me. Make sure you have your pen and paper. Like I said, these are basic ones. I'm going to give you a little bit deeper questions that you can use for reflection. Okay, but reflection doesn't always have to happen at the end of something. You can reflect anytime you want to, right? You can reflect daily if you want to. You can reflect when you find yourself just feeling frustrated or stressed in the middle of something, right? Maybe you have been working for 6 months, right? It's the middle of the year. You can still reflect if you're feeling frustrated or stressed about something, okay? Maybe you're at your current job, right? You can reflect on the last few weeks or months and to discover maybe why you're feeling that way. Okay. I see, I like to help a lot of new grads get really good with reflection. And that can happen every month, or like I said, in the middle of something, because new grads tend to get really frustrated and stressed if their patients aren't progressing how fast or how well they want them to. But with new grads, I like to help them just take a moment and reflect on where they've come, what has happened in the last 6 months. Okay. I'll get more into that in a minute. But my point is here, like, you can reflect anytime you want to, especially if it's a time when you're feeling frustrated or stressed out. You can reflect when you find yourself comparing yourself to other people, or when you notice that that perfectionism is starting to creep in everything you're doing, right? So think about maybe if you're working on a project and you're frustrated because it's not perfect. It's a lot in students, right? You're working on a project for class or a presentation for class, and you're getting frustrated because it's not perfect yet, or you think that something is wrong. That is a really good time to stop and reflect on the entire process up to that point. Have you really done nothing? Is it really that wrong? And if you stop yourself in the middle of that project, look back at what you've done, what you've created, what you've built so far, you're probably going to find that it's really not that bad. Nothing is wrong. Okay. So it can really help you if you're one of those people that starts to see that perfectionism kind of creeping in and slowing you down. You just stop and reflect. Okay. So the point here is you don't always have to reflect at the end of something. Yes, it's most common to do it then, but you don't have to. You can pause in the middle of something, your job, a project, whatever, and you can reflect then. Okay. So now let's talk about why you want to reflect. So reflection is needed to move forward. I've said it before. If you don't look back and review and process how things went, then you can't learn from that experience, whether it was good or bad. And if you don't learn from the experience, you can't grow. And if you don't grow, you're not moving that needle forward. You're going to stay stuck in the same place, just kind of on that hamster wheel, going over and over and over, doing the same thing over and over and over again. When you reflect, you can learn, you can grow, and you can move forward. Okay. So, as I've mentioned, reflection is needed to remind you of the positives that you may have forgotten about during the experience of the project or event, especially if it was a very stressful project, if it was time consuming, if you felt overwhelmed or frustrated in doing that project or that experience. You're only going to remember those negative feelings and those negative experiences, right? But if you take the time to reflect on it and how it went, you're actually going to find more of those positives. There are always going to be positives. But if you don't reflect, chances are you won't see those as easily. Okay. Reflection is also a very helpful tool for anyone who is experiencing imposter syndrome, right? Which typically is going to happen when you're starting something new. So I see it a lot in my new grads or clinicians who have moved to a different setting or a different job altogether. That imposter syndrome starts to set in. Okay. Part of that is because those people who have imposter syndrome are always chasing the next goal, or they're trying to catch up with other people so that they feel worthy of their current situation. Okay. So when people or somebody with imposter syndrome reaches a goal, what happens is that they immediately move to the next target, right? Okay, I met this goal. Now it's time to meet the. Now it's time to keep going up that ladder, up that mountain. I got to hit the next target, right? When this happens, the person then does not get to experience the joy and the pleasure of reaching that original goal. They're so fast, I got to catch up. I'm not where I need to be, or I'm not where everybody else is, and I'm not where all the other clinicians are in my clinic. Great, I'm met the goal, next one, got to hit the next one so I can catch up to where everybody else is. Okay. But when you do that and you don't realize you're doing it, but when that is happening, you don't get to experience the joy and the pleasure of reaching that original goal that you had set for yourself. Okay. By reflecting, someone with imposter syndrome can then see their own growth and their progress and start to appreciate that and celebrate that win. Okay. Does that make sense? So you reach a goal, you start, if you have imposter syndrome or you notice you're starting to compare yourself to other people, or you feel behind and you feel like you need to catch up, you reach a goal and you make another one, right? You hit a target and then you're immediately reaching for another target. If you feel yourself doing that, you find yourself doing that, just stop when you've met that goal. Okay. And celebrate it. Okay. So again, why do I think it's important to reflect? Because it lets you learn and grow, shows you how far you've come on your journey, gives you the opportunity to celebrate your wins, however big or however small they are. Okay. This happened to me when I was sitting down to plan for next year and plan out my businesses. and projects that I wanted to do in 2024. And I found a plan, goals that I had set for myself a few years ago. And when I looked at the goals, I found that I had actually met them that year. This was before I was practicing doing reflections. And I was like, holy crap, I did meet the goals. I thought I was still behind or that I haven't moved forward, that I'm in the same place that I have been for 3 years. But when I looked at the goals, I realized I had met them and I had met them a while ago. But what happened, I met the goal and created another goal or another target for myself, never paid attention to the fact that I had met goals that I had set for myself. And because I never reflected and took the time to notice that I hadn't met the goals, I felt like I hadn't moved, but I had moved my needle. I was moving up that mountain. Okay. So lastly, let's talk about how to reflect. Okay. So if you got pen and paper, now's the time to bring it out. I will give you some questions that you can ask yourself. Okay. So step one is to schedule a time to reflect. Okay. If you don't set the time aside, it's not going to happen. Trust me, you're going to find a million other things to do. I literally put it on my calendar so that I know that I will do it. Okay. So give yourself the time and the space to reflect. It doesn't have to be a ton of time. It can be 5 minutes, depending on what you're reflecting on. If you're reflecting on the entire year, might not need to give yourself a little bit more time. If you're reflecting on the day, you might only need 1 minute. Okay. So it depends on how often you're going to do it, how much time you need to give yourself. Okay. You can reflect daily if you like to journal. Not everybody likes to journal. If that's what you do it at the end of the day. Great time to reflect. Reflect on the day. You can do it weekly, and this is what I recommend to my clients that are students, especially those students on clinicals. Reflect each week on how you've been doing. Okay. You can do it monthly, you can do it quarterly and annually. And this is what I recommend to my clients that have their own businesses. I recommend that you reflect on each quarter before you set goals for the next quarter. And I recommend that you reflect on the entire year before you set goals for the next year. And this is what I do in my Planning for Success program. So if that's kind of you and you are find that you are having trouble either maybe making goals for yourself or finding the time to reflect or giving yourself the time and the space to do those things, reach out to me. That might be a good program for you. Okay. You can also do it at the end of a project or the conclusion of a program that we've participated in, just like I've been talking about. I also recommend for all of my students to do this at the end of the semester or the end of a school year, because it can really show you how far you've come, right? It's very, very easy for students, PT, OT, speech, whatever student, to start to compare yourself to your classmates and start to feel that imposter syndrome. But if you are a student, I recommend that you reflect back on the previous semester and the previous year and really look at how far you've come, because you're going to be surprised at what you know now versus what you knew then. Okay. For all of my new grad clinicians who are watching, I encourage them, or my new grad clients, I encourage them to reflect back to the start of their job, to the start of their clinicals, to the start of PT school, to focus on the growth in their knowledge as a PT. So very similar to the students, new grads, like I mentioned before, tend to have a lot of imposter syndrome and start to compare themselves to people that they see on social media and compare themselves to the clinicians that they work with. And then when they do that, they then feel behind, right? So one of the things I do with them is have them reflect. Where were you a month ago? Where were you when you started this job? Where were you on your clinicals? Where were you when you started PT school? You have grown, you do have the knowledge, but by reflecting, it's a lot easier to see these things. Okay. All right. So step 2 for how to reflect is give yourself quiet space to reflect. Make sure you're free of any distractions. Again, it doesn't have to be, it's whatever you're reflecting on, you may not need a ton of time, but you've got to give yourself that quiet space. Okay. Step number 3 is answer the following questions. So if you've got your pen and paper, these are the questions that I tend to use when I'm reflecting for myself or when I'm helping my clients reflect. First question, what went better than imagined? Okay. Second question, what didn't go as you imagined? Third question, what did you do well? Next question is, what would you like to improve about what you did or your performance or whatever? Question number 5 is, what did you learn? Good, bad, whatever. What did you learn? Okay. Number 6, what, if anything, would you do different the next time you did this? Whether it's the next semester, or you're planning another year for your business, or you're planning a similar project. What, if anything, would you do different the next time? Lastly, write down your gratitude for how things happen. Okay. A lot of people say when you reflect, just write down what you're grateful for. But I think the better question is, write down your gratitude for how things happened in that semester, in that year, in that project. Okay. Okay. Step number 4, celebrate the positives and the wins and just sit and be in those wins. Okay. So when I talked about those with perfectionism or imposter syndrome, or they're comparing themselves to other people, it's because they've set a goal, they met the goal, and they've already created a new target for them. But if that is you, when you reach that goal, you're not going to know if you've reached it unless you've reflected. We write goals for our patients all the time, and we're constantly going back and checking those goals to see if our patients have met it. We have to do the same thing for ourselves. Okay. So when you give yourself that space, quiet space, answer those questions. Did you reach your goal? Okay. Was it a win? Did you have a win, big or small, whatever it is? Think about, how does that win feel? How does it feel in that moment to achieve that goal or reach that target that you wanted? Okay. Let yourself just feel that win. What does it feel like? Because chances are that experience went way better than you originally thought it did. Okay. Whether you're a student or you've just graduated or you've been a clinician for 2 years, you've been a clinician for 10 years, reflection can be very, very helpful to learn, grow, and to celebrate all of those positives. Okay. Helping therapists discover the best career path is the main goal for all of my clients in the Complete Clinician program that I have. Okay. And using this tool of reflection is a really, really good place to start. So, any of my clients that are in my program, we start by reflecting. We start with reflecting, right? And we build and we move forward from there. Okay. And then guide these high achieving clinicians who are feeling frustrated and overwhelmed in their careers to take back control and build a career that is free from burnout and allows them to both love their job and still enjoy their free time. Okay. Because that's what we want, right? We all became therapists, PTOT speech, for a reason, right? And yes, stuff is happening, right? And when you start to feel frustrated and overwhelmed in your career, that doesn't mean you have to leave or jump ship or whatever, right? What I do with my clinicians who are feeling this way, we start with reflecting, right? Then we create a new plan to help them take back control, and build the career that they want that is free of burnout, that they love to do, but they still got a ton of free time and they enjoy that free time too. If you feel like this is you and you'd really like some help in reflecting, reach out to me, send me a DM, drop in the chat complete in the comments below. I'll respond to you. Okay. Reflection can be a very, very powerful tool to help you move forward, help you reach success, and certainly help you find happiness in your career. Let me help you figure out how to strengthen that tool, or how to use it, when to use it, so that you can continue to enjoy this career for a very, very long time. That is what is most important to me. I want you to enjoy the career that you chose. Okay. Let me help you figure out how to do it. I hope you learned something today. Please go ahead and drop in the comments your aha moment or something that really stood out for you, something new that you learned. Thank you for watching, whether you're watching on Instagram or you're watching in the Facebook group. If you have any questions at any time, I am always available in DMs. You can always message me. Excuse me. You can always message me your questions, your comments, whatever. If it's what I talked about today or something else, doesn't matter. Feel free to message me. I will always come back and answer your questions. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season, and I will see you all in 2024. Have a great day.